Hey folks, welcome to the Jason Wright Show. Today's episode is something that I was on a long walk and I wanted to bring a message of encouragement and hope, and not something so much like, well, watch me do this. You should do this. You should do that. I thought, how can I humbly come on and just talk to people about some things that have changed my life for the better. And I know that I'll be a different human being forever as a result of these things. And I started just processing, what would 5 to 10 of those things be? And I thought I would just include 5 things. And I might add to this later on, but these are some things that I wanted to share with you that have completely changed my life for the better. And they're not exactly in any rank order, although if I took the time to really process it, I might be able to come up with the most important versus the least, but basically take these as all things that I think that have just had a profound impact on my life. And if in fact you are looking for things that might change your life for the better and you can adopt some of these things, then go for it. I really think that what I'm about to share with you, the things that have changed my life, I do think they have universal benefits. So with that, let's get started. Number 1, I got married. Okay, let me give you a little bit of history. So I was married for almost 17 years to a girl that I met in college who is the mother of my 2 daughters. And we had a rocky marriage from the beginning. And I'm not going to go into details on I did this, she did that, and therefore she's a horrible person, and so therefore I got out of it. That's not what this is about. The bottom line is it takes 2 people to cause a marriage to fail. And I certainly played my role. Unforgiveness is absolutely a recipe for ending a marriage. And so the bottom line is that marriage ended. And as a result, and based on the history that I had in that marriage, I basically resolved myself to never, ever, ever marry again. And I know there's a lot of guys out there that, and I'm speaking specifically to guys, I'm not just because that's the subject matter I know the most about as opposed to women. I'm talking about guys. There's a lot of guys out there that have been through the pain and the heartache and the things that I went through and have decided themselves they will never marry again. They're not going to put themselves out there. They're not going to deal with the pain. They're not going to deal with the anguish of being married again. I was that person. And in fact, I thoroughly enjoyed my solitude. I liked being alone. One of the things that men tend to do whenever they go through situations like this is we retreat to ourselves. We go into a cave. We block everybody out. We don't interact with our friends as much. We just kind of retreat unto ourselves. And that's exactly what I did. In fact, I pretty much just spent most of my waking hours alone. And frankly, I was kind of happy about it. Every day I would do my work, and then by the afternoon, my nights were fixing myself some dinner that probably wasn't the healthiest thing in the world and watching Mad Men and drinking scotch. That was my life. And I had a pet guinea pig at the time. I don't remember where the guinea pig came from. Oh yeah, Rylan, my oldest daughter, before she went off to college, she decided she needed a guinea pig, and I ended up adopting Roger the guinea pig. So imagine this guy, a single dude with a guinea pig, Mad Men at night with a glass of scotch and a bag of pita chips. That was my life. And basically I thought that was going to be my life forever. And I had this mindset that I would never date. I dated one person after I got my divorce. I knew I was never going to get married again. And so therefore I broke that off, decided, it's not fair to the other person. And I didn't date for 5 years essentially. And I was happy until I ran into an old friend, and she told me she didn't know that I was divorced. And I told her I was. She said, well, I've got this girl you should meet. And I told her, I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to meet anyone. Thank you. That's very kind of you. But I don't date. I don't want to date. There's 2 women in my life, Rylan and Abby. Those are my daughters. I'm going to make sure that they grow up and they know that they are the number 1 priority in my life. And when they get older and they get married, I'll just go visit them, and that will be my life. But I'm not getting married again. I don't want to be in a relationship. Not going to happen. Well, that very day, for some reason, I thought about this for a moment. I thought, at the time, I think I was 41, 42. I thought it's really easy to tell myself at the age of 41 or 42 that I'm going to live the rest of my life alone. It's pretty easy. I function well and I don't need anybody. And anytime I want to go hang out with guys or do things, I can do that. But it's going to be a much different story whenever I'm 65 or 70 and my options are greatly limited and I'm not going to be able, and if I'm lonely at that time, or if I decide, companionship and sharing life and traveling would be fun, then it's just going to be a different calculus at that age versus right now where I'm 42. And so after contemplating this a little bit, I called the friend that had suggested that I meet this certain girl. I said, I'll tell you what, why don't you ask for her permission to share her phone number with me? Which she did. She called me back. She said, I talked to the person in question, and she said that she would have coffee with you. She doesn't want to go on a date. I'm like, that's fantastic. I really had never dated. Now, guys, I've had the most boring love life of anybody on earth. I had a high school sweetheart, a college sweetheart, which became my first wife, and that's basically it. So pretty boring love life. That's me. Never really was on the dating scene. Never did that. And so coffee sounded fantastic. So I get back home. The daughters and I, Rylan and Abby and I, we'd gone on our annual beach trip to Florida. We got back and I met this girl for coffee. Now, what I didn't know was that she was incredibly reluctant to go on this coffee date. She did not want to go. She didn't want any part of it. But some of her friends had convinced her to go. Now, this particular girl had never been married. She liked being single herself. She had her own business, to which she was pretty much married to, and she knew that I was older than her. I had 2 daughters, and I didn't seem like that appealing of a package. And so she was like in tears whenever she finally agreed to go to coffee. And the reason why her friends were like, look, you know who Jason is. He's a known quantity. You know he's a good dude, which I'm very grateful for them encouraging her. You don't have to marry the guy. Just go to coffee. So we went to coffee. And she told them, she said, okay, fine. I'll go to coffee, but I'm only going to stay there for 30 minutes. That's it. No more. Well, that coffee led to an hour and a half long conversation. It led to going to church that night with her and then dinner afterwards. And then 139 days from that first coffee date, that girl that I went to coffee with became Mrs. Right. And if you follow my social media at all, if you know anything about me, you know I love and adore Mrs. Right more than anything on this earth. She is the greatest thing that has ever happened to me. I cannot overstate that. And here's the interesting thing about that. There's a little bit more of the backstory for me. About 3 weeks before Jimlyn and I went on that coffee date, I was in Dallas with some of my buddies from graduate school, and they asked me, J-Dub, do you think you'll ever remarry? To which I quickly responded, no, I won't. And I said, for one thing, I've got a litmus test that is impossible for any girl to pass. I mean, I want her to be independent. I want her to be confident. And she's going to have to be in Tyler, and she's going to have to basically just kind of roll up on me because I'm not going to go looking. I'm not going to date. I'm not going to get on Bumble or Tinder or eHarmony or Match.com or any of those. I'm not going to do any of that. So the chances of it happening are just so slim. So my litmus test was so arduous that it was almost impossible for me to meet anyone. But it turns out that a lot of times God knows what's best for us, even in spite of ourselves. And he knew that Jimlyn was absolutely, perfectly, divinely designed for me. And I'm a better man because of her. I have no doubt. I am a better man. Now, I know that I know it's not popular for women to say they need a man to be better and to do this and do that. I get that. And I'm not here to argue that one way or the other. But I can tell you equivocally, I'm proud to say it. I have no shame in saying it. I am a much better Jason Wright with Jimlyn Wright. I would not be as good of a human being as I am with her. She makes me an absolute better version of myself than I would be otherwise. She is supportive. She's loving. And by the way, she's strong. She's independent. And the thing that I loved most about her, besides the fact that I could tell from that first coffee date that she loved the Lord, the thing I love most about her is she doesn't need me. I could tell early on she didn't need me. She truly wanted me, but she didn't need me. She had stood on her own, building a business, building a life for herself far before I ever came along. And I loved that about her. And so I just want to encourage anyone out there. I don't care how bad you've been hurt. I don't care how jaded, how cynical you've become. If you will allow yourself to take that leap of faith, and look, there are some people that may decide that being single and alone for the rest of their life is for them. And whatever, I'm not here to judge. I'm just telling you that one of the things that I could not have a list like this and not include would be the fact that I got married to Jimlyn Wright. Total game changer, has made me a better man, has made me a better father, has made me more ambitious, has made me just find more joy and happiness in life than I ever would have otherwise. So that's number one. Number two, understanding the power of forgiveness. So it's cliche, but it's absolutely true. Whenever you hold on to bitterness and anger, it is like drinking poison and hoping the other person will die. What I have found is that the most freeing thing one can do whenever you're really angry at somebody, and they may have done something horrible for you, and forgiveness does not make it okay. Forgiveness is not saying what you did is okay, it's no problem. No, they might have done something really crappy, and I've had some really, really bad things done to me. But I can tell you this, learning to forgive and let it go is like letting a ton of weight off your back. You're free from it. You're free from the pain, and you get to decide that. You see, I think that most of us hold on to anger and bitterness because of two things. One, we hate to see people get away with really, really bad behavior because we think to ourselves, I would never get away with that. No one would ever forgive me. And two, we think that somehow we're going to protect ourselves. If I hold on to this anger and this bitterness, then there's no way this will ever happen to me again. All of that is nonsense. It's crap, and you don't need to fall for it. The best thing you can ever do is to forgive. Now, I want to take this to another, like, for example, the Bible says, turn the other cheek, right? We know that. And it sounds kind of weak. And a lot of people misinterpret that. They think that this means that we should just let people walk all over us. If somebody comes up and punches you in the cheek or punches you in the face, then just turn the other cheek and let them hit that too. That's not at all how I interpret what the Bible is saying. I think what the Bible is saying is, know that you have the power to decimate the person and choose not to. It's the same thing in forgiveness. This person has done something awful to you, and you know that you can hold it over them. You can lord it over them. You can cut them out of your life. You can withhold forgiveness from them as long as you want. But turning the other cheek and forgiving them is taking the power and saying, I could do all of these awful things to you, but I'm going to choose not to. So I got to tell you, when I learned this, and look, it was not easy. It was hard. And there's one individual that did something so terribly wrong to me. I mean, wronged me, betrayed me, a close friend, the worst things you can think of. And I remember, I was bitter. I wanted to annihilate the guy. However, I chose to forgive. And then I ran into this individual years later, and unexpectedly, he called me over and he said, hey, I just want to tell you, thank you. Thank you for the grace you showed me. And I said, and it caught me off guard. It caught me, but he said, you changed my life. He said, because of the grace you showed me, it allowed me to show other people grace and forgiveness that I otherwise wouldn't have. And he said, it changed my life. And so I want to encourage you, if you have someone that you are holding on to unforgiveness and bitterness toward, know this. One, the forgiveness is for you. It's not for the other person. They're going to have to live with the guilt if they're a nice and kind and decent person. If they did you wrong, they're going to have to live with that guilt for the rest of their life, and they cannot erase it. That's for them to deal with their own shame and guilt and their own self-forgiveness. They have to deal with that. So the forgiveness isn't about them. It's about you. And it's about you taking the power and bringing it in and choosing to forgive. And by doing so, You allow others to see it happen in real time and then choose to hopefully start this domino effect of everyone being a little more full of grace, a little bit more forgiving. And I think that is a great thing. That has been a life-changing thing for me. Number 3, never withhold love. So I grew up in a household where self-protection was one of the absolute unspoken rules of survival. And, my dad went through a marriage very similar to mine and to my biological mother. And so as a result of that, my dad has lived with a very guarded life and been withholding for a long time. I don't think he's like this anymore. I think my stepmom nearly losing her life to a stroke has completely changed him. I think he is very expressive and much more open with his love and realizing that, self-protection really doesn't protect you at all. What it does is just limits you on the happiness and joy that you can have. But being raised in that, with that mindset, I was someone who was very self-protective. And so it's also, this kind of goes back to number 1, which was marrying Jemilyn, was a lot of people that had been in a marriage or relationship like mine that I had been in before. They come out of that and they think they're going to approach life very guarded. They may say, I'll date again, but I'm only going to love somebody so much because there's no way I'm going to put my heart on the line. And let me just tell you right now, and this is not because I can't honestly take credit for this. I say it's by God's grace. And I say it because Jemilyn is just such an amazing human being. I have never loved anyone with such reckless abandon as I love Jemilyn Wright. I hold nothing back. When I feel like I need to tell her I love her, I tell her I love her. Whenever I feel like I need to give her a hug, I give her a hug. I don't withhold. I never withhold. And I think some of the greatest marriage advice, and if some of you are fortunate enough to be in your first marriage and it's going good, but you've hit a dip or you have these problems, or maybe it's just going along, you're great, you have an incredible relationship. If you want to bulletproof it and you want to ensure it, I think the single greatest way to protect your marriage, to cheat-proof your marriage, to keep it tight, to keep it close, to keep you guys truly on the path you want to be, is to not withhold love for an instant. Never go overboard on letting your spouse, your significant other, always know you love them. Do not withhold your love. This, to me, it's kind of it's like so many other aspects of life. It seems almost counterintuitive. You think, well, the way I protect my heart is to not let anybody fully have my heart, not to fully expose my heart because I got to keep some to make sure I'm protecting it. No, I believe with all of my heart and all of my being that the greatest way to protect my own heart in my relationship is to give Jemilyn every single ounce of love and adoration I can muster. And I can tell you, I know it's anecdotal. It's just one crazy guy with a podcast telling you. Thus far, it has been fantastic. I don't ever regret 1 minute, always making sure to make Jemilyn know how loved, cherished, and adored and respected that she is. Number 3, do not withhold love. Number 4, don't drink alcohol. I know that right there may have caused some of you to just go, oh, you were doing so good up until then, Jason. Now I'm out. No way. I'm not listening to anything else you have to say. Well, hear me out. I'm not telling you to never drink. I'm just telling you I have decided to never drink. And it has had a profound impact on my life. I think more clearly. I sleep better. I've learned to have fun and be the goofball that I naturally am at parties, at weddings, and feel a lot better the next day. I think that it's helped me slow the aging process. I think it's made me a better thinker. It's one of these things that the only thing I have to be elated or get into an alternate state is those chemicals that are naturally already in my body, and figuring out other ways to manipulate them through reading, through having fun, through doing other things that I can't really describe it. And I can tell you, once I made the decision, and it was not easy. Again, another little bit of backstory. I grew up in a family that loved to drink, and it was really one of the hardest things to decide, because one of the things, my dad and I have had sort of a roller coaster relationship. It's been up, it's been down. We've been really close. We've been really far apart. But one of the things that whenever we were close that we loved to do was drink. We loved to drink cold beer together, sit by the pool on at my parents' house. And my dad and I would start, early, way too early to be drinking, but it didn't matter. We would drink by the pool all day, listen to country music. It was just our thing. And one of the hardest things for me was to break off that part of our relationship. I knew it would be tough for my dad because it was something we shared, and I didn't like that aspect of it. And whenever we got together as a family over holidays, July 4th, whatever, there was always going to be lots of booze flowing, and it was so fun. It was just hard to give up. And for the longest, what I would do is I would say, I wouldn't tell people I don't drink. I would just say no thank you at the time, or, yeah, I drink if I want to, but I'm just choosing not to. And I felt like if I did that, then psychologically, I wouldn't be putting so much pressure on myself. If I didn't say that I don't drink and draw a hard line, then I left the door open to, if I decided to drink a little bit, I wouldn't be a hypocrite to myself or anybody else that I had told I didn't want to drink, or I didn't drink. And then something happened about 5 years ago, right before I met Jimlin, actually. I just decided, no longer do I want to drink. I want to have as clear of a mind as possible. I want to be as healthy as possible. I want to live as healthy as long as possible. And alcohol just did not fit in to that lifestyle. I just decided it's not something I wanted to do. And so I cut it out, and I can tell you, I haven't missed it at all. And I know a lot of you hear this idea of, you think to yourself, wow, if I didn't drink, what would it be like going to the lake and going, getting on the boat and having a blast with my boys, going to a barbecue, going and hanging out on Friday and Saturday nights? To not drink. I can tell you, if you make the decision and you decide to do it, and it's right for you, if you decide it's right for you, you're not going to miss it. I believe that. I think our bodies are such that you will get so obsessed with feeling good without alcohol that it almost seems crazy to drink alcohol. And in particular, if you assume within yourself this identity that you're someone that is watching your health to at the greatest level possible, and there's just, it doesn't match up. If it comes in conflict with the identity that you've chosen for yourself, which does not include alcohol, then when that conflict arises, you'll just choose, I don't drink. That's just not what I do. It's not who I am. It's not who I want to be. Again, that's not to condemn or judge anyone that does. Most people I know, they absolutely drink alcohol. They have it, and I don't care. My daughters, they'll have a drink every once in a while. When we go to dinner, they will, my youngest, she loves her an espresso martini. And my oldest, she's kind of adopted the no drinking. She does not drink. She drank a lot at the University of Alabama, had a good time. But now she's told me she's decided to take control of her health, and she doesn't want to drink that much. And so, but I'm just saying that to also say that I'm not saying you're bad if you drink. I'm just saying that for me, it's been really good to decide not to drink. Now, that brings us to the last thing, which is number 5. And it's hard because I could make this list so long of just these things that I do and that I think have had a profound impact on me. And so it's hard to just tuck this last one in to say, okay, what's going to be the last thing? Again, these aren't exactly in rank order, but it's like, what have I done that has changed my life? And these are recent things too. And for those of you who are fellow believers out there, this isn't like, don't think I'm leaving out accepting Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. This is just not that sort of a list. That obviously was a huge one that I did when I was 9 years old. This is a different list. So you Christians out there, my fellow brothers and sisters in Christ, don't be judging. Judge not. Okay. This final one is this: choosing to make reading a habit. That's right. I believe that reading books on a regular basis has been a complete game changer for me. And here's how I know. One, I know I'm a better thinker as a result of it. I truly know this. Two, I know that I'm smarter as a result. I have conversations with people and they will bring up subjects, topics. I just had a guest on my podcast here recently, very intellectual guy, very smart. And because of all the books that I've read of late, and again, not to be, just some sort of armchair intellectual or some crap like that, but to truly satisfy my desire to learn and to satisfy my curiosity and to just broaden my understanding about good literature, about lives that have been lived, and just all these different things. It's so cool to get into a conversation with someone that is at an intellectual level that I think is way above me, but to be able to kind of keep up and have these, it leads to really, really fun conversations. When you're well read, you're able to have stimulating and engaging conversations. Beyond all that, Jim Quick, who wrote the book, what's it called? Limitless. It's like push-ups for your brain. If you want to do something that is truly going to exercise your brain, it is reading. I think that reading books it's a magical thing. It can take you away. It can help cure a bad day. It can help cure depression. It can calm you. It can help you to befriend people from the past, people that you're never going to meet in real life, but you kind of at least get to have a relationship with them. It gets you. It makes people like Augustus McCrae from Lonesome Dove, one of the greatest characters ever written. It gives you the ability to meet people like that are unbelievable characters. It helps you to understand at least a little bit of the mindset and the thinking of George Washington, John D. Rockefeller, Ayn Rand, all these people that have done magnificent things, and Elon Musk and Da Vinci. I remember one of my favorite biographies that I've ever read is about Da Vinci from Walter Isaacson. It was so cool just reading about these amazing people. It has encouraged me to want to do more with my own life and to realize the amazing power and ability and opportunities and potential that we as human beings have. So it's just made me a better thinker and given me better use of my mind. And I think that reading has been a total life changer for me. It's made me a better speaker. It's made me a better writer. I think it's made me a more interesting person, which I think is always good for those around me. So those are 5 things. And there are so many more things that I've done that I could go down a rabbit hole on and go deeper and deeper. And maybe I'll bring another deal, like 5 more things that I've incorporated into my life. I don't know, but these are 5 things that I can tell you have been total life changers for me. And I hope that if you're looking to better yourself, and that's what the Jason Wright Show, the mission is to improve always and always. That's my hope for myself, for you, the listener, is to bring you some topics that hopefully, if you pick one of those 5 things, if you pick just a certain element of one of those 5 things, and you can make that little bitty 1% improvement in your own life, then to me, this episode was fully worthwhile. So thank you for listening. I hope you found it beneficial. Leave me some comments. If you're listening to this on the YouTube channel, please leave me some comments of things that you've done in your life that you think have been total game changers. What have you done? Share with others some things that maybe they can do to change their life forever. And that's it. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Jason, and I'm out.